everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Amanda, and I have been recently diagnosed with ADHD at 52. So I created this channel as a way to share my journey as I navigate through a recent diagnosis of having a neurodivergent brain in my 50s. And I just thought it might be a fun and interesting way to document and share my journey with you, in the form of having conversations with my ADHD brain, Mary Jane. We will bring to you some recent awarenesses, and we'll go back in history and talk a little bit about how it was growing up with an overactive brain. If you find this relatable or interesting, maybe you are seeing some of yourself within my symptoms, how I am, it might prompt you to reach out and get some professional advice. I started watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts with women with ADHD, and that's how I started my research on understanding that I may have this disorder as well. So who is Amanda Jane? Well, I go by Amanda. Some call me Mandy, but I go by Amanda. I was born in England and immigrated to Canada when I was 4 years old. I am the youngest of a family of 5. I have a much older sister and an older brother. I was brought up by 2 very loving parents in a very supportive household. As a young child, I was very active. I enjoyed doing cartwheels and somersaults and watch me, hey mom, hey dad, watch me. My mom put me into figure skating when I was 6 years old. We moved a lot. I believe I was quite an active child, so my mom needed to put me into some activity to help me get rid of that energy. So my love of figure skating started at 6. I was a competitive figure skater for 10 years. We moved a lot because of my skating. I had difficulty making friends and holding on to friends because I was skating if I wasn't in school. I moved schools a lot. Every year it seemed like I had to make new friends again. I was always the third wheel in friendships. I was extremely creative and loved my skating family. It was a place for me to be myself. I didn't really have to think. It was more active based. I got to move my body. In school, in elementary, I did quite well. I was quite smart. I was a A-B student. I was a daydreamer. I was being active outside of school. So I believe that a lot of typical ADHD symptoms that show up in young females wasn't there. I wasn't really disruptive. I was, for the most part, a pretty good kid. Then hormones hit, and I struggled with a few things. I struggled with friendships, with relationships in my teens. I quit skating because it became overwhelming. The anxiety for competitions. Looking back, if I would have known that I had ADHD, things might have been different. But I had great experiences and learned a lot. I had a lot of anxiety during competition time. I had a lot of self-doubt. Now looking back, those were definite signs of ADHD in females, I would think. Yep, absolutely, that's me. Hey Amanda. So unsure, self-doubt, yeah, those are some of the early signs. Thanks, Mary Jane. I look back to junior high, where I find I started struggling more, trying to figure out who I am, hormones, skating competitively, trying to navigate friendships and relationships, interested in boys, all the things, and just struggling with it all. Being bullied because I was a skater. I was popular in some crowds, unpopular in others. I tried to mask my anxiety by being more out there, trying to be liked, trying to find things that would please people so they would like me. I really did not like it when people didn't like me. And I'm still trying to figure that out. So we'll learn through that together as well. I was being trained for the 1992 Olympics back in the day for figure skating. But as I got older and struggled with more things, I was very self-doubtful that I would be able to accomplish that. Looking back, I self-sabotaged a lot because I didn't see myself getting past a certain point. And in understanding some ADHD symptoms, that seems to make sense now. What do you think? Right. Okay. Again, thanks, MJ. So realizing all this as I'm going through different stages in my life has been very eye-opening and in some ways discouraging, because I think if I could have had treatment or even just have been aware, I could have handled things differently and looked at things from a different angle. But I am who I am today because of what I've gone through. So we are just learning this now. So I digress. So as I became a young adult, I decided that I couldn't handle the figure skating, and I made a very big decision. It took me a few months to decide that I quit. I felt like I had let a lot of people down. My parents, who spent crazy amounts of money on my skating, all the people that supported me, my coaches, my choreographers, my support staff. I cried myself to sleep for months, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So looking back, do I have regrets? Sometimes, but I also know that everything I did was meant to be, and I coped the best I could at that time. Whew. Had a moment there. That was a raw moment. So, hell yeah. Thanks, MJ. You always got my back. In my young adulthood, I had applied for college, canceled that, moved out of province, had relationships, had different jobs, moved quite a bit. Always feeling like I'm seeking the next best thing, searching for something. Back then, wasn't really sure. I just thought I was eager and young and had my whole life ahead of me. But I jumped around in a lot of different areas in my life. I had FOMO, fear of missing out, which I feel like I'm an introvert, but I had extrovert behavior, trying to be seen, trying to be recognized, wanting to fit in, wanting people to like me. So it sort of has been a pattern throughout my life. I'm a people pleaser, recovering, working on that. That is something now I'm understanding a lot more after my diagnosis. I started having a little bit more confidence back then in my young adulthood. We would go and sing. I've always enjoyed singing. And being in my young 20s, I had that confidence, and I was seeking that dopamine hit, right? You do well, people recognize you, people like you. But I also really enjoyed singing as a creative outlet, now knowing that it's something that my brain and my body need. Then I met my first husband and had 3 children, and I got busy raising kids. We had 3 within a 5-year span, and now looking back, I had a lot of structure. I needed structure in order for me to keep a home and not lose my mind raising 3 babies that were, very busy. My 2 boys were 13 months apart, and a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-year-old all together. So having these small children and navigating a disorder that I didn't know I had, I just naturally, organically implemented structure into my life to make it work. So being busy, raising my family, which I absolutely loved, kept my brain busy. And as my youngest son got a little bit older, we discovered that he had ADHD. And his symptoms as a young boy, as you know, is quite different than what you see in females. So in saying that, raising a young son with ADHD, impulsivity, and attentiveness, it didn't even cross my radar that I was struggling from the same disorder. Who knew? Who knew? So we had some challenges, but I was busy. I was a busy mom. So moving through life, things, moving forward, ended up getting a divorce, not a healthy relationship. So I moved on. I went to college. I became an educational assistant. I was very interested in working with youth that had some challenges, that had neurodivergent brains, as my son was struggling with ADHD. I even did my final college paper on ADHD in young boys. Never once was I very well educated or aware of the symptoms in females. Ignorant probably on my part, but it just really wasn't a thing 20 years ago. So after my divorce, went to college, graduated, moved forward, got into a new relationship, a new job, new career, and had 8 years in a blended family situation. Learned a lot about myself, had a lot of activities with the kids, so kept them busy with soccer and archery and always having to do things. So I kept myself busy, working and activities with the kids, not a lot of downtime to really realize that I was struggling with a few things. 8 years go by, again, relationship dissolves, and again, I have learned so much more about myself and my needs, and I seek out therapy because I want to get to understand myself. I feel like I'm the problem. It's always me. What am I doing wrong? I needed to work on myself and figure out what was happening. I was diagnosed in the year 2000 with depression and anxiety. And so since then, I have been treated for that. And even in therapy, ADHD was not caught or discussed 20 years ago. It just didn't seem like it was a thing back then for women to have ADHD. So grateful for this day and age that people are now talking about it. Women are talking about it. Women later in life are becoming diagnosed with it or becoming more aware and seeking out a diagnosis. They're speaking up for their own health, which is fantastic. And it's truly been through YouTube and TikTok and podcasts that I have started to become aware of my own possible neurodivergent brain, shall we say. So moving on, kids are growing up. I've changed jobs. I've moved. I've had different relationships. 10 years ago, I met my soulmate, and we have a blended family of 10. Yes, I said 10. 8 children, 3 are mine, 5 are his. And we have like a dozen, baker's dozen grandchildren, more on the way. And I've learned a lot over the last 10 years about myself, always learning. I have a curious brain, as you know, and that's all that I hope is that, you know, I bring some light, I bring some value, maybe some relatable content. Maybe we can learn together. I'm going to be getting some blood work done for my hormones as I'm learning more and more about my diagnosis. And why all of a sudden am I not being able to cope as I always have? I have less stress in my life. We are empty nesters. We are very happy in our marriage, my husband and I. I'm at a great place. I love what I do for work. I have good friends, great relationships with all of our kids. So why am I struggling? Why am I so forgetful? Why am I forgetting really important dates? Like dance recitals for my grandbabies. Why am I forgetting stuff like this? So I'm concerned, as my mom had Alzheimer's and my nanny, her mom, had Alzheimer's. So I'm automatically thinking I've got dementia, early onset Alzheimer's. Like, I can't retain things people tell me. I get confused with things. I can't make decisions like I used to be able to. Why am I struggling so much now? So finding out that hormonal changes in different stages of our life can really contribute to bringing out those symptoms of ADHD. So this is kind of like what's happening, and it seems like it's just starting to all make sense. When I look back over my life, the struggles I've had, the creative brain that I have. Yep, absolutely, that's me. You know, I love to paint. I was a figure skater. I love to sing. I feel like I'm gifted in certain areas and then really struggle in other areas. So it's a wonderful thing, but I'm just trying to figure it out. And so having these conversations with Mary Jane, my brain, and who knows, maybe all my grandbabies 20 years from now will get a kick out of watching their old crazy nanny on YouTube. So yeah, so this is kind of why we're on this journey, and I hope that if you find it relatable, if you get a kick out of it, get a giggle, please subscribe, follow us, share, and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your feedback.